You're listening to Francis Oblivion and the Mad Undead by J. Johnson Higgins. This audiobook edition is a Kiss the Widow production.
Chapter 2. Stars, the Woman Who Saved Me.
Journal of Adrian Eckenrode. Continued. Eventually, the sun began to emerge with greater enthusiasm over the horizon, and the biker slowed to a stop on the side of the road near an overpass. There were rows of power lines near us, the big kind that looked like giant robots with 6 arms. We were in the middle of nowhere, it appeared, but then highways always looked that way. Maybe a single exit would bring us right back to the empty and now crippled civilization hidden behind some hill or patch of trees. The mysterious biker parked and lowered the kickstand. We both got off the vehicle. I felt disoriented like from an amusement park ride, but glad to be standing. She sprang from the bike like a gymnast, turned around with a bounce in her step, and engaged me without needing a moment to adjust. This lightning-fast roller coaster did not faze her at all.
Are you okay?
The biker asked, as she undid and removed her black helmet with its tinted visor. As she lifted her helmet away and turned, her curly raven hair rained down onto her shoulders. It was as if her wild hair was selfish and stole both the night and any remaining stars in it as the sky began to brighten above us and a light wind batted her locks to one side. She was not bothering with any makeup, lipstick, eyeliner, or shadow. Her natural face was front and center, and despite her pagan and tribal signals reflected in more tangible things, her bracelets, rings, and necklaces, heavenly angels still seemed to agree to illuminate the ground before her without any hesitation, and her walkway led directly to me. Once closer, I studied her face in greater detail as she studied mine. She had a black lip ring, a hooped piercing on her left nostril, and another matching one at her eyebrow. She also had a noticeable scar that began just above her right eye. I wondered what that was from. She formed a tight grin briefly, but it faded again like a tease. I don't know why she'd formed it. Perhaps it was a delayed celebration of escaping the monsters? Maybe she meant to put me at ease, or conversely, found me amusing for some reason. Maybe she had variations on that same grin intermittently for the entire ride. But I did not have the chance to truly notice until then, in the light of the rising sun. Who knows? In any case, that grin detained me for a moment as I tried to understand it, and she laid those intense copper-brown eyes on me. What age-revealing tracks that were evident at her mouth or at the corners of her eyes were like playful ghosts that appeared and vanished without a trace in her expressions, making it rather tough to actually guess at her age when I came to think of it. They were merely precursors and echoes of the personality that I wished to uncover, and quickly if possible. For me, she temporarily remained indeterminately youthful in composure. What was this woman's story? I wanted to know. What kind of person goes through this morning's experience, speeds through these streets the way that she did, and then emerges with a grin on her face as if saying that she would be up for doing it all again later and wouldn't even break a sweat. She was a colossus of intrigue staring back at me. On a first surmising glance, I'd say she looked tough or like someone who ran with such a rough crowd. Someone who might flash obscene gestures at strangers just to keep things interesting for her and her friends, and would probably win if she ever got into a fight resulting from her provocation. But she was instead asking if I was okay. Indeed, her razor-sharp persona projected a peculiar vibration that is both captivatingly beautiful and scarily powerful at the same time. Like watching a tornado dancing in the distance, but sucking me in as I attempt to flee. The projections of an unbound spirit were layered seamlessly into her attire as well. She wore a black jacket with a back patch that read, "Suicide" across the top, "November Crew" along the bottom, and an image of a scary-looking mythological siren with 4 arms wielding daggers, I recalled. Speaking of which, the woman had at least 3 sheathed knives of her own strapped to her thigh. One of them was glowing bright blue. She'd pulled that one earlier to ward off the mob of shadows. One had a subtle green glow, and the last had no glow at all. She had a purple and black scarf about her neck, gloves, slightly faded black jeans, well-worn and dusty purple sneakers, the kind that a skateboarder might wear, and a studded belt. In many ways, she resembled a knight in black armor to me, Gothic royalty, perhaps a young queen, who fled her mystical kingdom for this forbidden joyride through the desolate world. Not on horseback but on this screaming neon road machine. It was a black motorcycle but with some high-intensity purple on it, that is. She had fitted guards at her shins and knee pads, as well as similar protection at her breasts, arms and shoulders beneath her jacket or perhaps part of it. I couldn't tell. The material of the jacket resembled denim, but it wasn't. It was some kind of thicker and heavier textile. I realized this while riding with her. Indeed, this was all road protection, but I wondered if it had the dual purpose of general defense, given the recent encounter back in the city and the hands-on way she defended us. The universe slowed for her approach. Then, more than ever, I needed to breathe, but I just didn't. I needed to swallow, but I didn't do that either. She put her helmet aside along with her silver backpack.
You're not hurt, are you?
She rephrased her original question, less patiently this time, looking me over and even parting my open jacket to see for herself.
I can help you if you need it.
This woman appeared carefree and rebellious on the surface. Yes, but her words and mannerisms introduced an instant authority suggesting a level of refinement, maturity, discipline, and a dash of elegance I didn't quite expect from behind the daring motorcycle maneuvers I just endured. She was definitely a queen for this, to solidify my earlier reference. A mover of agendas, a woman destined to hold a sword with two sharp edges that could cut both ways, a starter and stopper of activities. I'm okay, I replied. You showed up just in time.
Good.
The woman said with a sigh of relief, letting go of my jacket, and a nod before going on.
What were you doing back there?
Doing? I echoed back her question, confused.
I mean, where did you come from?
The woman put her question differently as she paced about with her hands on her hips.
That area has been completely empty for months. Then you suddenly showed up at the worst possible time. Why were you there?
I would say that she sounded a little agitated that she'd found me. It was like she was out on a mission of some kind, but she had to abort unexpectedly to save me and then flee, an inconvenience. I wrestled with that for a moment, too long apparently. The woman went on with even more related questions.
Who are you exactly?
She asked, shaking her head.
How long have you been here in Siena? Yes, that's my question. Have you been hiding? Are there others like you out here too?
I'd already received one too many questions from her, one right after the other, so it was clear that her motorcycle was not the only high-velocity thing about her. It was tough to get one word in before she posed a new question that depended on the answer to the last. I finally answered her first question. I'm Adrian. I quickly inserted as I debated also giving my last name in the introduction and did. Eckenrode. Adrian Eckenrode. In doing so, I fumbled the delivery in a shaky way that sounded almost like I was unsure about my own last name and had to recall it. It was an abnormal slip-up that I wasn't known for, but again, her sharp presence confused the formal and less formal sides of me so much that I'm sure I sounded less confident than I needed to sound with her at that moment. But I improved from then on, starting with, I live here. I can't say I've seen you before. She waited for me to go on with my incomplete response. I've lived here for the past 2.5 years, I elaborated. Then, there was the explosion, and everyone disappeared.
They all disappeared except for you?
The woman simplified. That's right. She circled about me once and I stood as still as a statue. She seemed genuinely fascinated by my being there, like I was an object that fell from the sky, and she was checking if I was authentic. Then, she touched my shoulder briefly and even apologetically corrected my jacket on that shoulder as if to say, well, look at that, he is a real person. She did not seem to see me as a threat after having me ride with her. That much I could read from the way she entered and left my personal space like this whenever she pleased. No doubt, her rescuing me created an informal peace agreement, but she kept me on trial, or probation I should say, for the moment, for my existence it seemed. Where's everybody? I finally asked. Once we were face to face again, the woman replied in an interesting way.
A sanctuary. That's where everyone is. That's under my protection. It surprises me that you're here instead of there. Did you leave my sanctuary?
She asked with squinty, suspicious eyes.
It's okay. You can tell me. I won't be mad. That happens sometimes and it's not always intentional.
No, I don't think I've ever been to it. Where is it?
Interesting.
She replied but never answered my question.
So, then you've been here all along and have seen everything since the blackouts, I take it?
I think so.
When you said, the explosion, did you mean the missile strike over the city?
I didn't see what caused it. I just saw the flash and the aftermath.
Okay.
She said this in a drawn-out way along with a nod, like she'd just learned something important from my words.
That's very interesting. And do you know why you're here? Are you on a mission?
She continued, I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Do you have an objective? Are you here for any special purpose?
She sharpened the question but didn't quite clarify as she pinched the air with her thumb and forefinger. Like what?
What brought you to Sienna, babe?
School originally, but again, that was a few years ago and I'm not done yet and… She placed a hand at her chin and grinned again. She kind of laughed but stifled it. I didn't know what to make of her questions or the laughter. The questions were odd, but she wasn't done asking them yet.
Adrian, I have another question for you. Do you by chance know who I am or what I'm doing here?
No. Should I? I asked.
Not necessarily.
She said as she looked me over again. She didn't say this in a disappointed way. She seemed excited.
It's okay that you don't know who I am. I just wanted to check. I'm Stars, by the way. Call me Stars, plural, just like those up there.
She offered immediately, flicking her eyes to the sky but like it was only a passing thought. She shook her head and said,
Unbelievable. Unfricking believable.
What's unbelievable? I asked. Considering that she might be on some kind of mission of her own, I was sure to quickly state that I was not part of any organized activity. I'm not here for any special mission. If there's something going on with the war, I assure you that I don't know anything about it. I wasn't sent here as part of any group. Is there something military going on here? The woman smiled. Then, I knew for certain that my words amused her on a level I could not comprehend.
It's all right. I'll tell you what's going on. You won't believe me at first, but that's okay. You will eventually. I brought you here. I called you and you showed up.
What? How so?
With my mind mostly.
Stars closed her eyes and rocked her head about as if listening to a song with earphones, almost dancing for a moment, but she stopped.
Meditation, an open letter to the universe, and a white candle burning for 3 whole nights.
She added, opening her eyes again.
I did a spell. I called out to the universe, to anyone who would be willing to help me. I waited for a response, and today that response is you.
She pointed to me and playfully tapped my nose.
You're my respondent. Today, you showed up as I knew you would. The signs were all there, just differently than I expected to see them, and a little early. I wasn't quite ready to receive you yet. Regardless, you answered my call.
She grinned.
I thought you might have been fully aware that I called you and that you'd recognize my energy or my voice, but that doesn't seem to be the case, and that's okay too. It doesn't always work out that way.
She shrugged. I don't remember any voices or anyone summoning me.
Calling.
She corrected. Well, what did I say in response to your calling me? I don't remember it.
You didn't say anything. Your arrival is the expression of interest. That's why you're here. It isn't always about words. Sometimes it's about much more. Calling is about energy, needs, wants, characteristics, and actions. In mundane terms, it's like propensity score matching but more precise and less flawed. It can also account for unobserved factors that we're not considering. Have you ever heard of PSM before?
No, I haven't, and I can't say I understood a word of what you just said.
Well, more simply, a call is like an invitation, but a more personalized one that matches our energies and vibrations. I made the request, and you showed up. You volunteered for both me and my cause, even if you don't realize you did.
That doesn't make any sense.
I told you, you wouldn't believe me.
Okay. Was there a specific ask in the request I responded to?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Stars thumbed over her shoulder.
I want some assistance with those creatures we met back in the city and the force that is enabling them to appear. I'm going to put an end to it all, and you'll be the one to help me with that.
And how do you know I'm the one you're looking for?
The first reason I know is because I called you and you answered. Circular logic, I know, but this isn't the first time I've called out and received a solid response. Every time is different. Every respondent is different, but every time I know when my respondents emerge.
Stars hesitated before she went on with her next words.
The second reason is that, well, I know you. Spiritually, I do. Now that you're in front of me, I can sense you better and know that you are a match. It's a little different from having met you before, but it's like that.
What do you know of me?
Again, it's the more general things, but the ones that matter. You're a continuous breeze.
Stars began to say without any delay.
Color, yellow to amber. Element, air. Air is thin and clear. You are thin and clear. This means that you're always around and do a lot for people, but they don't notice you unless you push and move things in their field of vision. You don't like to push too hard if you don't have to. You would rather lightly influence others without forcing them to behave unnaturally, and you would rather watch them be themselves. This has advantages and disadvantages. An advantage is proximity. You're not someone who hides from others. You crave their company. A disadvantage is that not a lot of people see you in general, though. That bothers you.
She must have been able to sense that I wanted her to elaborate on that last point, and she did.
It makes you feel a little sad and left out even though you're participating in their lives. I know that can be rough for you sometimes. But even though it frustrates you, it doesn't make you become harsh and hard because that's not your nature. You adapt and carry on.
How is it that you would know these things about me?
I asked for you spiritually.
She was sure to clarify again.
I was only specific about a few things when I called. I chose yellow to amber. Air. I like breezy individuals. I know you think they're bad traits, but they're not.
She gave a slight chuckle.
Some people can see you with no problem.
People like you?
Yeah, people like me. I prefer your temperament. I wouldn't have chosen it if I didn't. That would be strange.
You're talking about elements and colors. That I have these traits.
Your spiritual temperament, yes.
You requested them?
Correct.
So, let me make sure I understand. You summoned me to...
Called.
Stars corrected me again, rolling her eyes this time.
Will you please stop saying that? I just explained to you what calling is. I didn't summon you. That's not what I do. I don't do that.
Okay, called. So now what? I do what you tell me to do or something like a genie?
Well, that's up to you.
Stars shrugged her shoulders.
This relationship is what we make of it, mutually, and above all, I want it to work. Did you come here to follow orders, Adrian? Is it an obligation? I just went over what I requested, but I don't know what drives respondents to come forward except for the match. I never do, so I let them tell me if there are conditions. What I'm saying is that if you were a genie, you would be setting the tone of the relationship by telling me that my wish is your command, for example. I would allow that, but I'd still be respectful. I consider myself progressive and against slavery and oppression. If it's in my power, I'd want to release you from obligation. Some respondents insist on a relationship of at least quasi-servitude because they're already bound to some external obligation that I know nothing about and won't deviate on account of me. I'm willing to play along to a point, if that's your thing, but that requires real communication about expectations and limits from both of us. I would rather see us as equals and collaborative.
What happens if I don't want to help you?
Whatever the case, you can leave my side whenever you choose. I just don't think you will.
How are you so sure that I want to be here?
But don't you want to be here?
She motioned at me standing before her.
Don't you want to help me?
Stars asked, raising her eyebrows. It was an interesting way that she asked these questions. She spoke as if she already knew where I stood and that this part of the conversation was rather rhetorical. I thought for a moment, and it was a strange realization. I did want to be there at that moment. I'd been looking for other people. I'd found one, and probably the one you would want to find in this kind of dismal, confusing wasteland. I just encountered a mob of nightmare creatures, and I felt safe with Stars around me because I saw her fight them. She just saved my life. One could say that even if we removed all the hocus-pocus of her calling me forth by some magical spell, or even the practical aspect of the safety I felt in numbers, I would instantly succumb to the reality that I still owed her for saving my life. It was an odd feeling. Perhaps there was something magical about Stars after all. We met eyes again.
It's so good to meet you, Adrian.
Stars finally said, as if she could read that I'd reached my conclusion. I felt good to meet her, too. I wanted to repay her somehow. Nevertheless, her simple acknowledgement of being glad to meet me despite all this talk of calling got me to realize that this was in fact a breakthrough. Stars was my first contact in what I estimated to be 8 months or maybe more, and I must have been lucky to run across someone willing to risk her life to save me like she did in that moment. Lightning could strike twice in the same place with better odds. It may have been luck or her call that brought us together, but it was probably her next actions that made us inseparable from that point forth, in my opinion. I extended my hand to shake, but Stars responded by suddenly stepping forward, ignoring my hand, and throwing her arms around me. I was moved as she slammed her semi-armored body into me. I reluctantly reciprocated as she stood on the tips of her toes. As she clutched me, the relief of finding another person became even more profound. It began to mean something. It became real before I was ready. I felt the warmth of her breath on the nape of my neck, and I was consumed by a sudden sense of balance. My breaths became deeper, but I suppressed exposure of them so not to seem weird to her. I thought of the months without human contact, the darkness, the isolation, and how she ended that hardship there in that moment. I thought of how my life was in jeopardy and how she rescued me from the jaws of death like it was something easy for her to do, not a big deal for her at all, and was maybe even fun. This thought began to overwhelm me, and it became the lens through which I viewed her from then on. I saw her as a heroic figure whom I wished to emulate and follow. To me, she meant that there was hope after all, and that it would take a lot more than a shadowy mob with preternatural eyes to break this world. She did not seem afraid of the unknown future. She was prepared for it. I didn't want to release her again, but she, being the originator of the enhanced version of the greeting, had had her fill at some point and put an end to it. She pushed me away playfully and amused. She stepped back. I think she then realized my intense reaction to her hugging me where she hadn't only a second ago, that I almost had tears in my eyes from the contact, but she did not call any extra attention to it. She just said,
Hey, I'm glad we found each other and that you're okay. I mean that. I haven't seen another person in a very long time. Maybe we can celebrate later, not here though. That would be best, right? We've been in one spot for too long.
she informed. Well, thank you, Stars, for back there. I'm so glad you showed up. I began to finally thank her.
Yeah, hang on a second.
She said, distracted. My thanks rolled right off her as she stepped away, climbing the incline by the overpass. When she reached the top, she stood on the edge and looked down the road, scouting for the shadows, I assumed. Once satisfied, she returned, and her demeanor changed a little bit. She was less tense or on guard. I continued where I'd left off. It was good that you showed up when you did. You were amazing. I don't know what I would have done.
I think you would have made it to the tree on the hill and would have been just fine.
She offered. I don't know. They caught me by surprise. Whatever they are. She stepped back and spoke.
We're safe for the moment, but they could still find us here. We should move soon.
Stars continued to look about.
But before we move on, are you hungry? You must be.
She didn't even bother waiting for a response as she rummaged through her bag.
I didn't bring much out here in terms of variety, just snacks for scouting, but I can share what I have for now and we can have something more substantial later.
She pulled out a simple granola bar, broke off a piece and handed it to me. She immediately bit the other half, perhaps a sign to me that it was nothing unusual, though it was coming from someone I did not know. I tried my half. It tasted like cranberries, dark chocolate, and almonds, something I had not tasted in quite a while. My diet had become rather bland and minimal these last several months because of scavenging. That's pretty good, I said as I finished my piece. Maybe a little faster than either of us expected. I even bit the side of my mouth from enjoying it too much and a little too fast.
Here, have another one. I'm sure you're starving.
She pulled another one and gave the entire thing to me with a grin.
There's plenty more. Don't worry about it.
I took it. She stared at me as I ate it, perhaps still trying to figure me out. In all fairness, I hadn't given her much to go on yet, so the decoding glances, awkward pauses, and coy smiles were justified. But maybe none of that mattered since she seemed to know my spiritual temperament. Soon she gave me her bottle of water. I thanked her again. Before long, she returned to an earlier question.
Where specifically have you been hiding all this time? It's strange that I haven't seen you before. It's strange that the monsters haven't found you either.
I shook my head and repeated one of her words. Monsters. I almost laughed. Stars did not. Perhaps things were still a little surreal. As soon as I repeated the word, I realized it sounded ridiculous, but at the same time, the events themselves remained unexplainable without such absurd references and catch-all expressions. How could I explain their eyes and the terror from hearing their demonic cries without calling them monsters? What would they have done if they'd caught me, and stars had not shown up to fend them off? Are these not the questions that fill our minds when thinking of monsters?
Yeah, monsters.
She pressed.
You know, we can always go back there, just so you see again what we were up against. I'm sure they'd appreciate us going back for another visit.
No thanks. I saw them, but I'm just not sure what I really saw or what to say about them. It all happened so fast. It was so dark. They all looked human to me. Well, sort of. Something just wasn't right about them.
They're not human.
And you're sure of this?
Don't let them fool you. I've been watching them for some time. They may seem human, but they're not. That much I'm sure of.
I was sure of little and had nothing else to add. Stars, on the other hand, appeared to be working from a larger body of experiences and information much more concrete and methodical than my recent encounters could capture in summary. I'll go ahead and say here that she had copious notes from observations and previous close encounters. She had counts of them, named them, and numbered them. Actually, I don't know much about them, I explained to her. You really are the first person I've seen. I went out there because I heard noises near that apartment complex where you found me. That is where I've been and hadn't left the area in months, and I haven't called attention to myself, so you could say I was hiding. I wanted to see what the noises were. I'd only seen the monsters recently. This month, and it was only once before. I thought they were normal people at first, but I couldn't catch up to them.
Understandable. They have been spreading out and moving that direction lately.
Stars instantly replied. Stars removed an eye-shaped pendant from around her neck. Without so much as a pause or a bashful bone in her body, she draped her arms over my shoulders like I was her prom date, and fastened the pendant around my neck.
I'm sorry you had to endure that or any of this. The important thing is that you're safe now.
Before I could ask about the pendant, she said,
For protection, babe. And no, it's not optional. You'll need it if we cross their path again. You see what happened last time.
Just as soon as she finished, she gave me another, one of 3 pentacles on silver chains she possessed.
This too. It's doused with Angelica. It wards off evil. I think I can spare one.
She added with a wink, then quipped.
Same rules apply. Don't take that off, or I'll kick your ass myself if they don't get to you for it first.
So, this safe place you've talked about?
They're in a sanctuary.
Stars responded. From them? I asked.
Yeah, among other things.
By then I knew that she was a woman of many secrets, but she did not seem to be keeping them for nefarious reasons. She was cautious. The important thing was that she did know about all the missing people, where they were and why they were gone. She was apparently responsible, and this was a good thing. As long as I knew her, progress had been made. I moved on for the moment. Hey, Stars, I started. I still can't thank you enough. I'd really like to repay you for what you did back there. What can I do for you?
It was nothing.
She put simply.
You shouldn't have had to deal with that in the first place. If you think about it, I probably put you in that situation indirectly by calling you and not making a good enough effort to find you earlier. I feel really bad about that I didn't know you were out there earlier. You don't owe me.
We met eyes.
And look, I want you to understand that our interaction should not be about repaying a debt. That's not how it's supposed to work.
I made an effort to go on making my case. I've been trying to find some answers, and you seem to have some. I am in your debt, though. You didn't have to help me. I think I do owe you one regardless. Is there anything I can do for you? I want to help you confront them, and I want to know everything about what's happened. Stars's reaction to my words was peculiar and dichotomous. She was surely flattered by my finally asking to work with her, openly. It was what she wanted after all, and I was, according to her, her respondent. but she also seemed bothered by some aspect of my newfound enthusiasm. She was seeing the risks now in a different way, exercising even more caution, and suddenly had more to say.
You're my respondent, and I do want you to help me, but I don't want anyone getting hurt around me either. I don't want to be responsible for other people's pain. It's happened before, so I want to make sure you are ready before I involve you to any greater degree. You should understand that I'm a magnet for bad things, a magnet for them.
She indicated the wraiths down the road.
I want you to just stay alive. That's what you can do for me right now.
These cryptic words coming from my quintessential Lady Luck, who saved my life, had an irony of their own that was apparently lost on her. Stars crossed her arms and thought for a moment.
In the interest of full disclosure, I want to warn you that what you saw back there was nothing compared to what we're about to face. There is something else out here that is far worse than anything you've seen so far. It's dangerous, vindictive, and relentless.
She stopped.
But it's not looking for you, Adrian, at least not yet. It's looking for me, okay? The one controlling them is looking for me. If it knew about you, it would kill you like that.
She snapped her fingers.
It would kill you to get to me just like it killed everyone else I know, and it won't think twice. I can't allow that. I won't. I don't want it to find the sanctuary, and I don't want it to find you. Something really terrible could happen to you for being around me. That's my concern.
She shook her head.
Now that I've found you, I could take you someplace that I know is absolutely safe, my sanctuary, and then when I'm ready for you, I can come get you. Are you willing to wait for me there?
But what if? I hesitated.
What if what?
I was thinking back on the nuclear blast, the months of emptiness, and the creatures that had arrived. I thought of the ease with which Stars rescued me from these things and walked on with her day, ready for more. What if I'm better off with you? Just like this. Around you. They're afraid of you. I saw it. You made them back away, and you didn't even flinch when they came after us. Besides, you called me to be here. You said it yourself.
I've watched people I know die because they were simply around me, though. Not even a year ago, I asked them to take special precautions, but they didn't listen to my warnings. They're dead now. Do you understand that? Do you really understand what that means?
She approached.
People I've known for years.
Stars's eyes hit me as if to remind me that I did not know the extent of what I was talking about or what she'd been through in the last year. She was reminding me that I had not seen this greater nemesis that she spoke of, and I was lucky for it. There was a moment of silence.
Does this bother you? You'd be more vulnerable. It's not like being in my sanctuary where we can be sure.
I did not say anything, but I shook my head to say that it did not bother me. Or rather, that I could not let it bother me. What life I had was because of her, in my opinion. It was a fair trade. A wash. There may have been some hesitation, and she was convincing, but she had my answer.
I'll attribute your response to naivety, and I want you to know that it does bother me. If you get hurt, that will be completely on me.
Stars added as she turned away to think. She was intrigued, though. Eventually, she turned her head my way and stared at me again, looking me up and down. The gears were turning in her mind. The movement of her mouth with a false start was the proof of that. It wasn't until the tilted head and the squinty eyes that I knew she had something special in store for me. I began to reconsider the ample opportunities she'd offered for me to be, on some level, divorced from her daily actions, but by then it was too late. I was all hers.
I'm planning to head toward the eastern coastline, and since you want to know more, I'll explain it all to you when we get there. I could benefit from having some help while I finalize my big plans. But if you follow me outside the sanctuary like this...
She raised one finger, sensing that I was about to speak out of turn.
You have to promise me now that you will do whatever I say from here on. That's my condition.
A second passed.
Whatever I say, no second guessing.
She repeated.
You follow through and follow my lead. These requests are intended to protect your life and mine and everyone in the sanctuary. It's bigger than just us.
Okay.
Some things I explain to you will seem extraordinary, but I've seen more of it than you have, and you'll just have to trust that I know what I'm talking about or we're not going to make it far. There's some wicked stuff going on here, and I'm about to walk right into it deliberately, and I can't fail. So that means you can't fail either.
She pointed to the sky.
Do you see how the moon looks?
Even during the day, the moon was now visible and red. like a blood moon eclipse that won't end.
It's been like that for months, I'm sure you've noticed.
I had, of course. Following the flare and the blackouts, the moon became a deep red in all of its phases, perhaps shaded by a force I did not know. Stars went on.
Its phases are like a clock telling us when the shadows will be most aggressive, but also vulnerable. I've been watching them, and I know their cycles. They become sloppy when they're most aggressive, and this will be when I'll make my move, when they believe they'll win. I have a plan. Their leader is the worst of all of them, though. He has been looking for me, but I don't believe he knows about you. If you come with me, he will surely discover you, and I want you to be aware that there is a considerable risk involved with that. You will be in continuous danger.
I was drawn to the fact that she was already prepared to face down this force alone. It inspired me to want to do better in general and confront my discomfort in the manner that she did.
Those are my terms. Will you do it? Will you do as I ask when the time comes?
Well, I don't know. It's funny how we were just discussing servitude and how you're against it, and then you offer me these new terms about doing whatever you say. I joked, but she wasn't having jokes on that topic, not now.
Adrian? I'm going to ask you again.
Yes, I can do that, I amended. What's out east? The sanctuary?
No. The sanctuary is right here.
Stars replied. Stars reached into her backpack and removed a small bottle, clamped shut and on a string. As she dangled it in front of me, she put it simply.
They're all right here, inside this bottle, frozen in time and completely safe.
It looked like a bottle with water and glitter inside like a sparkling snow globe. I'd assumed she was joking. She was not joking.
This is the safest place for them all to stay for the moment.
Everyone is in there? The world is in there.
Yes.
And how did they get there? I asked.
I put them there. Magic. I used oils and an incantation I wrote myself. They're protected inside. This is a temporary enchantment until I can deal with my problem. Our problem now.
Hey, is that where you were going to put me if I declined your offer?
Yeah, it's safe. Where the hell else would I put you?
She replied, smiling as she put the bottle away.
But we're past that. You're going to help me now, and you asked to stay outside the sanctuary, so you need not worry. Out east is where I've been hiding. It's more peaceful out that way. My findings are there. I plan to bring everyone back in a world safe and sound, without a veil over the moon.
She again pointed at the blood-red moon. This was all Stars said as she pulled an elastic band from about her wrist, put her curly hair into a ponytail and climbed back onto the motorcycle. She also tightened her scarf. She put her helmet back on and fastened it.
I'll explain everything when we get to the coast. Hop on,
she said, tightening her gloves. I did.
Hold on.
She prepared to go but turned back to me.
Really, you might want to hold on tighter than that, babe. Like before. Like your life depends on it. Do that.
She teased.
Don't be shy. Just like this.
She guided me to a tighter grip.
That's more like it. It's also getting colder out these days, and I could use the extra layer.
Stars revved the engine and we took off.
This story is 100% original and written by a human, yours truly, the author. AI was not used to write, prompt, organize, or otherwise generate this story. This audiobook edition was, however, created using licensed text-to-voice software with a lifelike casting and intonation manually adjusted and refined line by line by me, and art in and of itself. The theme music was written and produced by Kiss the Widow. If you like what you found so far, please like and follow, subscribe, and share. Also, please be sure to check out my socials.